everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of 31 Days of Indie Horror. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got two awesome guests here who have never been on the show together, but both been on the show. Anna's been on the show since I first started, and we've been doing the Ginger Snaps movies all together. So I don't know what we're going to do next season because no more Ginger Snaps. Unless they make another one, in the meantime, but I doubt it.
If it doesn't have the same two actresses, it's not a real Ginger Snaps movie.
Right. True. Exactly. And so let me introduce my guests here. First off, we got Jordan Miller. How you doing, Jordan?
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing great, man. It's good to be here.
All right. Awesome. And then we've got the person who's been on the show for the whole time for doing this Ginger Snap stuff. Anna Xaden. How are you doing, Anna?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. So
awesome.
Yeah, like I said, we did the first two. And Jordan, you said you didn't see the second one.
I've never seen the second movie. I've seen the first movie like 4 or 5 times. Never seen the second one. This was my first time seeing the third one.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I'm pretty pleasantly surprised how good the third one is.
Really? Yeah. Oh, we're gonna get into this because
I was expecting it to not be good, to be honest with you. Like really not good. But it was actually pretty surprising.
Before the show, I forgot to warn you guys. We're doing something different this year. We're doing the stinkometer scale, which means like nice. 1 to 10, 10 being stinky and terrible and bad, and 1 being good and excellent and whatever. So we'll rate it at the end, and I'm sure by the end of this thing, you guys will have a clear idea of what you guys want to rate. But you can also rate it a 0.5, like 5.5 or 6.5 if you guys, if you're not sure. But anyway, we'll get into that after. And Anna, you've done that before because you were on Indie Film Cafe.
Yes.
Jordan, you haven't been on Indie Film Cafe. We got to get you on there sometime.
No, I guess not. Yeah,
check out some indie flicks.
But what I like about doing podcasts with you is because you always throw really random movies at me, and there's things I've never seen. Well, there was 2 that you threw at me. There was Wishmaster, which I hadn't seen since I was probably like 7 years old.
And we're gonna do that for 90s horror, I think, at some point. I had a blast watching that one again. And then the other one you threw at me was that Australian Bigfoot movie, which was, I'll admit, was like not good in any stretch of the imagination, but it was fun to watch. And all the stuff you throw at me, I've just never seen. And Ginger Snaps 3, I was like, I was expecting like close to Australian Bigfoot level quality. Right. It was well beyond that. It was like actually pretty decently good. Yes. So let's talk about this. So Anna, real quick, you've seen this like how many? I don't know how many times you've seen all 3 of them. How many times have you seen the third one?
The third one I've seen probably about 10 to 15 times. Jesus. I actually own it. Yeah, I went through this stage in my life where these movies helped me feel better about myself because I wasn't turning into a werewolf. So I just watched them over and over and over, just one right after the other.
Interesting. So it made you feel good because you weren't because they were turning into vampires. That poor Ginger, every single time she was was it Bridget never really had to worry about that as much. She was kind of living your life.
Part 2. Even I just said I haven't seen part 2, but I know what happens in part 2 because I went on a deep dive after watching 3 because I just love that the 2 of them are the consistent through line, even in the third one, which is the prequel. I love that it's the 2 of them the whole time.
Yes.
Well, is it really a prequel? I mean, it's like it's like their ancestors, but they're both named Ginger. Like I almost felt like it was
like an alternate reality or something.
Yeah, something alternate universe, kind of like the Marvel cinematic thing, like their variants of the other, versions. Like maybe if they did a 4th one, those 2 versions could meet each other and
Well, and you've watched this movie more than I have. Like I kind of took it as like there was their ancestors that had the same name, what that happened to look exactly the same. But it was just like we're destined to do this forever type thing. And there's this like feel like a circular end to like the movie where it's like they embrace and she makes her choice at the end of the movie and she says like, you and me forever. And then if it's just the bloodline continuing to like those sisters are struggling with the same thing future in the 90s, I don't know, that feels like there's just this sort of like bond that gets formed in this one,
Yeah.
Maybe.
That was such to get stuck in a loop of that with your ancestors.
Terrible. It's
With
like
the same
sisterhood
names.
bond, but yeah, I know the same names.
They look the same. Well, I will say I loved the way that they portrayed Ginger in this one. She looked a little scraggly and little like like a little worse than she's done before, because this is supposed to take place in, I don't know, what, the 1800s or something. Even though they sound very much like today, like it didn't sound like they really changed. It's not like they were like changing much of the dialogue of what they would normally say. It felt very
that's actually true. The other actors were going full in though, like a lot of the other period actors were like going full dialogue style, like at least with the dialect a little bit more. It didn't feel out of place though. I feel like it didn't take me out of it.
No, not at all. I enjoyed one of my favorite actors actually is in this movie, and he's an actor who I don't feel like gets enough credit, but his name is J.R. Bourne, and he was the one that was basically leading the mutiny, or whatever. And I've seen him, like he was in like Teen Wolf, and he was in, I think, like the Vampire Diaries and stuff like that, just a bunch of TV shows that I adore. And Suits, which is one of my favorite shows. So
he's in 13 Ghosts, the remake, and something else. Yeah.
Nice. I've not seen that in forever, so I don't really remember that. But
I literally rewatched it like 2 nights ago, so he was like really fresh in my mind, like going into this movie.
Like, oh, there's that guy.
Yeah, there he is.
He's back again.
Back for more.
Yeah, he snapped back just like everybody else, apparently, and Ginger.
And they reuse other actors too. There's at least one other actor who comes back from, I think, the second one.
Yeah. And that was Brendan Fletcher, who you might remember from Freddy vs. Jason. He was the guy in Freddy vs. Jason that was like the best friend whose brother comes back to the tub, played by Scott Farkas himself, and he comes up in the tub or whatever, and he's like freaking out.
You know what I remember him from, though? I remember him from Goosebumps. He's in my favorite one, The Werewolf of Fever Swamp, another werewolf movie, actually. He plays Grady, the kid who's like clearly the werewolf from like the second you meet him in the story. But yeah, I always loved him I thought he was a great actor as a kid, weirdly enough, from like watching that tape a bunch of times and thinking that kid was great. And then he pops up in another werewolf movie.
No,
I hate to see the guy typecast, but
hey, there's worse things to be typecast as than a werewolf.
Oh, totally. He actually does a great job in this movie too. Like he's the guy who's chopping all the leeches up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's losing his mind. He did a great job.
Yeah, I liked him. Yeah. I liked him. I liked J.R. Bourne. I liked everybody. I liked the main guy with the daughter and everything. And then I also love the hunter guy. Like I adored him.
Oh yeah. The Native American.
Yeah. Do you have a name?
I never heard it.
I don't think he did.
Hold on, I got the IMDb handy.
I think it was just called Hunter, and I looked it up on IMDb, and it was just called Hunter. So I was hoping that because there was.
That's the one thing about this movie is it's like it's almost like paying tribute to like Native American culture, but at the same time, it's like pretty much not also, and it does just call them Indians the whole time.
I know, which I was at first like a little bit like, but then like. I was like, I think maybe back then they would have, but I don't know what their term would have been. Like they wouldn't have. Either. I think they would have been probably meaner and said nastier things, and maybe they just didn't feel like getting into trouble with that. But I mean, because that's the problem with doing period pieces, right? Is that the periods back then that we watch a lot of times are nastier than we are. We are very like, we're right now coming to a point in society where we're starting to like, evolve into this, like, we're sorry for our ancestors. We don't want to keep making these mistakes. We want to move on. We want to do this stuff. And I'm like 100% on for that, like on board. But you can't do a period piece, and like everybody's going crazy about that Pam and Tommy movie, and I'm like, you're gonna it's gonna be not, like, this is not the time to do Pam and Tommy. You know, like this isn't the time to do movies talking about Native Americans, because we're gonna be rude, you know, about it, you know, like if we're gonna be honest with how people spoke.
Well, yeah, if you're looking at like just human history, 100% of it is horrifically racist. Like that's just, you look at everybody's just like horrible all the time.
Well, I'll give you an example of something.
White people specifically.
My town, my like elementary school was named Rawlsburg, right? And for years, like, I don't know, even before I was going there, it's been called that. Then they realized Rawlsburg himself was a racist and had slaves and did all these things. And they were like, we don't want that name anymore. So they changed it. And so we're getting to a point in our society where we're starting to, like, you know, change things to try to better our, you know, things, our past mistakes. And that's going to happen with films too now. And so people can't be 100% honest, you know, with that, or they're going to have to just rewrite history like, you know, Quentin Tarantino does, you know, like that. If you're
going to get like crazy about it though, I mean, like, we're always like, the shit we learn in school is like only half truths anyway, you know, all this shit's like rewritten by like white people after the fact anyway. So like, if you know, if you're going to rewrite history or like do whatever, like if you're going to tell history through film, like that shit's just going to happen. I feel like the story you're telling is based on something that's already a variant of the truth.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about what this movie is about, you know, and I'm going to read the IMDb you know, synopsis done by somebody named Claudio Carvalho from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So
thank you, Claudio.
Yes, thank you, Claudio. In 1815 in Canada, the sisters Ginger and Bridget survive to a boat sinking where her parents die. But I think where their parents die is what sorry if I keep correcting this. Alone and lost in the forest, they meet an old clairvoyant Indian that foresees their fate. Let's call her a seer, you know, because that's what they called her. Later, they're guided by the seer, the hunter, to a fort, and they seek for shelter with the men of the Northern Legion Trading Company. They note that the place is under siege of wendigos, a sort of werewolf that has killed most of the dwellers of the place, and the survivalists are very afraid. Their lives are put in danger by their deranged locals and by the surrounding beasts. Yeah, I mean, they keep calling them wendigos, but they're werewolves.
All sorts of hell breaks loose. Well, I actually love that. I love that they kind of combine the werewolf and wendigo legends, because they are like pretty similar.
Yeah.
Like when the wendigo legend is like you start starving out in the wilderness and you convert to cannibalism, and that spirit of the wendigo and then enters your body, turns you into whatever it may be. That's basically what werewolves, like, you turn into a creature and start eating people, right? So just to blend those two, I thought was kind of like a nice move.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What did you think, Anna?
Well, I can see how the stories are kind of similar, but I mean, wendigos aren't bitten by anything. And Bridget and Ginger in this one was bitten by the little boy who was already changing. And what I want to know is, why hadn't the boy changed completely yet?
Yeah,
that was my question too. I don't understand what that was. Like he's the only one who for some reason is affected like that, and I don't know why.
I mean, they kept him locked up, but it seems he could get out easily.
He seems to be running freely all over the place, is what he seems to be doing, and I don't understand any of it.
And another thing is, like, how did I think it was what's her name? It was Ginger who found the little boy.
Yeah.
And she found him fairly easily too. Like, it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like he was locked up in a place where only such and such could get, the guy, the father could get him. And so why didn't any of the other settlers or whatever just stumble into that room?
No, he woke her up because he was straight up making a bunch of noise in the middle of the night. So like, how is nobody else waking up? And like everyone's like, yeah, that's just the sound of the house settling. It'll do that.
Yeah, that's weird.
It'll cry like a child for 3 or 4 hours every night. Just a house.
Freaking nuts. But that, I 100% wondered why that too. Like, why didn't anybody ever notice that? But I mean, I just kind of chalked it up to story.
Yeah.
That's literally the only thing.
House, I would have walked into that room at some point and been like, "What's in here? Nobody's opened this door."
Yeah, don't go through those doors.
I feel like I just kind of forgive it. Yeah, I feel like I just kind of forgive it because of how good his makeup is.
Yeah.
And like every time I see him, I'm like, this is pretty awesome. It's pretty. So I'm just like, how did he get here? I don't know, but he's really cool to look at. So here we are.
I thought he was kind of cute. It was a kind of a cute monster.
Yeah, it's cute. It's like, exactly misunderstood.
Misunderstood. Yeah. Poor little werewolf boy, wolf boy.
He even got a sad look on his face when Ginger was about to kill him with the knife.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, he's got emotions still. He's not fully werewolf yet.
Yeah. Oh, and you talked about Ginger's look in this movie. That scene when she goes full cloak and dagger.
Oh yeah.
Great look. Like
her fangs were amazing.
Like
too.
She should be fronting like a sick doom band, and it would I would buy tickets in a heartbeat. It was awesome.
I loved like when she was cloaked out and everything, and I was like, Little Red Riding Hood. Like that's what I was thinking, with the whole thing. Except it wasn't red, I don't think, but it had that little like I'm here to get rid of the big bad wolf kind of thing. Even though I am the big bad wolf.
There was the constant theme of red and black, though, and like Ginger seemed to be assigned the red while her sister the black. So it kind of goes with that.
They did say that too, and that was part of the prophecy or whatever,
Which also is like a little vague. Like everyone kept saying like the red and the black, and like the sisters kind of look at each other like, is this a racial thing? Like what is happening right now? I don't know what's going on. But all right, fine. The red and the black, sure.
I mean,
they call her the dark one at one point because she has dark hair, but I just feel like everyone's just like, all right, dude.
It was but it was pretty strange with the whole idea of like the hunter guy bringing in the 2 strays basically. And like, okay, I'm sorry, but if you have a guy out there or whatever, you would not be bringing in strays because you don't know, they could be bit somewhere or something, I mean, they didn't even check them for bite marks and make sure that these, they were not turned into wendigos or whatever the things that they were.
Well, actually, they did check Bridget. They were going to stick a leech on her and she freaked out. And then they're like, we have to check.
Oh, that's true. But they didn't do that for Ginger, did they?
They were about to, but then the guy that was the main guy over everything, like walked in with a gun and he shot the doctor.
Well, escalated quickly. Yeah,
that was later, right? That was after. That was way later. I'm talking about in the beginning when they first got there. No,
because it was just Bridget who had the wound from the bear trap.
Right.
So they were concerned that was a bite.
Yeah, but then they found out for the doctor.
They would have checked Ginger after she started looking really bad. Like she started looking rough, and I wanted to brush her hair.
And why didn't that dude think anything weird when Bridget's like, oh, Ginger's asleep. She's just really, really tired right now. I'm like, that usually means that she might be turning into a werewolf. Can we go check in? What?
They probably thought it was a woman's time of the month. They're like, let the woman rest.
That Puritans are not the greatest judge of like anything, really.
No.
You could lie straight to their faces and they're like, okay, yeah, sure. God's will. It's God's will. Yep.
It's God's will. Let's just let that go.
We'll turn a blind eye to that and move on.
That was funny. I mean, I honestly didn't like this one as much. I mean, it's not like it's a bad movie or anything. It felt so strange. Like it did not feel like a Ginger Snaps movie. It felt like I don't even know because this was shot back to back with the second one.
Yeah.
So like I'm wondering why did they like decide to go this route? Because I understand both of them kind of, it at the end of the first one they kill Ginger, I believe, if I'm correct, if I'm right. And then Bridget had gotten bit or whatever and got turned or whatever. So like it would have been Bridget's, Bridget Snaps, or whatever.
Doesn't have as much of a ring to it.
No.
And as far as we know about Bridget, she's still in that basement, like being used to kill people that the little girl doesn't like.
Right. And so like that would have been a fun story to continue. And then somehow maybe brought Ginger back as like a ghost or something, or whatever. Yeah. But like, they shouldn't have called it Ginger Snaps, honestly. Like I know it sounds like a cool title, but like especially if you're really gonna just turn Ginger into a werewolf and then like all that stuff, like it just doesn't really work. I don't know.
Well, I wonder if this is because I didn't see the second one that this really did work for me.
Right.
Because I feel like this movie paired with the original alone kind of makes for a really interesting double feature and like a interesting Ginger Snap. Like it feels like a Ginger Snaps movie to me. Because it's like the same story as the original, right? With like two sisters, they're bonded on some sort of traumatic level. They have different trauma in each film, but like then Ginger is bit by the werewolf. She starts to transform. It's up to the sister to adapt, and then things progress from there. But both movies are the same setup, but because of where you set the third one and the Puritans and like everything that's going on, the religious bend, everything else, don't feel the same. Like they're totally different stories. And I feel like they're just very in line, like the two of those movies.
Well, and I think that's, an interesting point because like, you're right. The first and third movie feel like remakes of each other, or whatever.
But not redundant. Like it feels like they tell different stories the same way in a weird way.
And like, if they did that for each movie, like if it was 1 and then 3 and then there's another, if there would have been another one that was like another tale of a Ginger and a Bridget in a different time period, like that would have been fucking cool.
Like medieval.
Medieval. Oh my god, yes. There's so many cool things you could do with that.
Actually, that would rule. A medieval werewolf movie, has that been made? That would really work.
Like Knights of the like
magic and shit work. Magic and shit just works with Arthurian storytelling, right? Like I feel like werewolves just roll right in there.
That would be awesome.
And this would probably be Van Helsing because they were killing vampires and werewolves.
Oh, good call. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been really into like the period piece horror mix up lately with like movies like Bone Tomahawk and like setting the Western with a horror movie. And there's a couple of the Pale Door was pretty decent. But like I've been interested in these like kind of mashups with like more like period pieces and horror. I think like they just really work. Mostly because it cuts technology out of the equation entirely, right? There's no cell phones. Everyone's isolated. Like shit just happens and you can't call anybody.
Wow, that's a good point.
What if the Ginger Snaps in the future, like Ginger Snaps in space or something, kind of like Ginger Snaps
in space. No, in space is where every franchise goes to die. Leprechaun in space, Jason X. I actually like Jason X, but I
like Jason X too.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to say they hate Jason X, but then they have to lie to themselves because all of the best kills are in that movie.
I liked the critters in space, but critters kind of came from space.
They're from space, yeah.
So it kind of works. You can't.
Exactly.
Leprechaun doesn't really feel. Now I want to see critters in the hood. Like right. If you're gonna go that route,
that's why critters are great because they adapt anywhere they go. It doesn't matter. It just works.
They're from space. They lived on Earth. Whatever.
Chuds in space because that just makes no sense, and I just want to see it.
Chud, yeah. They haven't even made a third Chud ever, right? Like it was only 2, I believe.
Because like only like 2 people liked the first 2 movies. I think I was
You're
one of them. Yeah, I'm one of Bud the Chud, maybe. One of the worst, best sequels ever.
I don't know though, because like I think what is it, like Vinegar Syndrome or one of those groups actually sell them, and they do pretty well from what I understand. So
the first one like has things to love. Daniel Stern's in that movie.
It's sort of like I guess a guilty pleasure movie, thing, or whatever. Or not so guilty.
Depends on who you are. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's interesting. I don't know. But go back to ginger snaps. Yeah, I don't see. We go off topic a lot for all my.
Somehow we got the chuds in space, and
I don't know, but it happens. But yeah, ginger snaps in space. No, let's not do that. Let's keep them on
ginger
Earth.
Snaps in the hood then.
Because I think like what I like about this movie that works too is that werewolves are like wendigos, where they're like a folk legend, right? They are like a folk horror kind of rooted creature. So I think it works when you put it in a period piece. It just kind of does well.
Wendigos are like, aren't they like flying? Like they fly and stuff. Like they have wings or something. So like I just got very confused because they kept throwing the word Wendigo out, and I'm like, do they realize they're making a werewolf movie?
Well, I think I've seen Wendigo adapted so many ways. Like I've seen Wendigo, like have you seen Antlers yet?
Yes.
No.
Well, that's like a pretty classic Wendigo kind of setup where it's like an antlered sort of forest creature. Like I've seen that a lot. I've seen Wendigos.
And it's also kind of werewolfy because like somebody gets bit and then turns into the
turn. Well, you turn into the Wendigo and it starts as human first. So like that's another thing that's like, but the Wendigo, like even if you dig into Stephen King deep, Pet Sematary is technically the Wendigo. Like the Wendigo rules the upper woods of Maine, that where the Micmac Indians were, and like the sour ground of the Pet Sematary is like soured by the Wendigo, and it's the spirit of the North Country, and that's what gets into everything, and probably what inhabits the body of little Gage when he comes back.
I'm really sad because I have a pet cemetery in my backyard, and I live in Williamsburg, Virginia, where Pocahontas lived in junk, and so I'm sure a lot of Native Americans were buried in my backyard, and this is probably anywhere we bury our pets is probably Indian burial ground, and yet they never came back to life.
Well, just be respectful, and I think everything should be fine. Just don't go out there don't go wilding out there. Cool, just be chill. We don't want any pet cemeteries to have. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery.
No, I do not.
I don't want to live this life again.
No, neither do I. So yeah, well, there you go. So to go back, so you hadn't seen it before, but it was nice to see the original too, right? Back anyway, like Catherine Isabel, who this was her thing, this was her baby. And so was Emily. I keep forgetting it. Perkins.
Yeah.
Emily Perkins.
Now
she's great.
It's so funny. I now always remember her from Supernatural. She has a
fangirl.
She was a fangirl in Supernatural, just one of the best characters ever. And because she's Canadian and Supernatural is Canadian, so they hire a lot of Canadian talent on that show.
She's Beverly Marsh to me. Always, she's young Beverly Marsh from It.
The original It?
Wow.
From the original miniseries. She's Beverly. Yeah. Nice. That's how I always remember her. Yeah.
That's crazy. I need to rewatch. I have it. I just need to rewatch it.
It's a great adaptation. But yeah, she's young Beverly Marsh.
We're actually, my friend John and I are doing a show now called Exploring Stephen King Films. And so I'm sure.
Have me in.
Would you want to come down and be there?
I will talk Stephen King all day, every day, any day. You let me know.
All right. I'll let you know, definitely. Okay, especially if we do like It or something else. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's a ton that you'd want to chat about. But that's the thing. Like we're doing so many podcasts right now that all have different stuff. 31 Days is pretty much Tubi, shows or movies and stuff. But this is, Ginger Snaps was something that I think Anna, you recommended it, right? Like it was a movie that you, and I found it on Tubi, all three of them, and I was like, oh, we've got 3 years we could do. If we do 3 seasons, we could do all three of them, and we are. And I don't know if I told you on the first one, but I'll always remember that I was watching Ginger Snaps in my roommate's room. She had a bigger TV in her room, and I was watching, and she was away, and I hear a knock on my door in the middle of that freaky movie. In a way, I was already kind of getting creeped out by the first one, which I never get creeped out by movies anymore. And I was like all alone in LA and like whatever, watching this creepy movie, and I'm like, okay. And I hear a knock on the door, I go to answer, I go to look out the people, and it's like some old woman standing there, and I'm just like thinking, oh shit, I'm gonna die, I'm not answering.
Oh my god,
that is it.
And I was talking to my roommate about it today, my former roommate, and she was just like, it was probably some like wrong door, somebody
or a
with the wrong door
person.
Not,
I had a crackhead show up at my hotel door one night the first time I stayed in California. It's like peeped out. I was like, I don't know you. And she's like, let me in. Started beating the door. It's like, I don't know you.
I lived in this hotel room for 3 years before you got here.
She probably was. She was probably the one that broke the bathroom door.
I got a stash hidden in the drywall. Let me in.
That's why she got kicked out, and she broke the door. Oh man. Well, I think
it's okay. I have a key.
I think you told me that too. It might have been on the show. We might have talked about it.
I think so.
It's so funny. It's weird and crazy that LA is just. It could have been. I don't think it was a homeless person, only because it's a gated community, so it's really.
Okay.
It's sort of harder to get in, but it's not. It's not fucking hard as shit to get into these things.
Yeah.
If you open the gate, somebody can just walk in.
I hate to tell you this, but that was definitely a ghost.
It was a ghost.
Or a werewolf, possibly.
It might have been a vampire because I didn't let them in, and they didn't.
Either way, good looks. I'm glad you didn't do that.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't either. I don't know what would have happened. But I don't. It could have ended badly,
This just could have been a run-of-the-mill, regular old, everyday LA serial killer, and you still would have been dead.
You never know.
Well,
either way, bad idea.
Yeah. If they started really, like banging on my door or whatever, I still would have answered it. I would have called the cops at that particular moment. See, this is why I hate horror films anyway, especially indie horror films. Somebody bangs on the door, the person opens it up. Nobody does that.
Well, it's like when they hear a noise, they're like, let me go check that out. It's like, yeah, I'm going to stay in here.
Yeah, no. No.
But I would be the one to go check it out, actually. So
no,
I would
you wouldn't have. You would have been like, I'm not checking that out.
I've told myself this 1,000 times, but then like in my house, when this shit like happened one time, like nothing happened, like nobody was in my house or whatever, but there was like a crazy sound, a whole thing. I was just like, I'm gonna check this out. And I'm like, I got down there and I'm like, look at me. Haven't called the cops. Got a baseball bat in my hand. What am I doing? I'm falling into what everybody does in every single horror movie I've ever seen. I'm like, I said I would never do it. And here I am, bat in hand, no cops called, ready to die, at any moment.
My go-to is I keep a knife by my bed in case, and it's like a knife like this. So all I do is grab it out of the drawer and walk out like
Jesus.
this. Yeah. So at least I'm going to scare the people that are trying to scare me. A little bit, at least.
Yes, absolutely.
Unless they have a gun, then I'm just screwed.
Jordan's got the Crocodile Dundee knife. Like that's not a knife. This is a knife.
Yeah.
That's a spoon.
That's great. But yeah, to go back to Ginger Snaps, which we sort of once again went off topic. We talked about it earlier before the show, but it's called Ginger Snaps Back the Beginning. And I'm like, kind of pick a lane, bro. Like it wasn't called
I agree.
It should have just been called Ginger Snaps Back or Ginger Snaps the Beginning,
Back.
What?
I like back. Like Ginger Snap's back. You don't need the beginning, like the back is
Yeah.
implied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
They were going
oh,
back.
they went back. Yeah, exactly. I didn't even think about that. And I don't even know if they did. I think they were just like Ginger Snaps back.
I feel like they had this exact meeting in the writer's room and like no one understood their own title. And they're like, let's just put it all in there. Like everyone's just going to get it. Like nobody understands this fully.
It doesn't matter. People are going to see it regardless.
The title hasn't fully made sense since the first film. So let's just roll into it.
It did, yeah. It didn't even make sense the first time, other than like I guess it made sense.
Well, no, Ginger, she snaps in the first film.
Yeah.
And then
But
the second
she
one,
doesn't
she's a
snap in the-
ghost.
Yeah, she does not snap in the second movie.
Or a hallucination. They didn't say if it was a ghost or a hallucination.
We talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I discovered. So we didn't know. We don't know if it's like if it was a real ghost or a hallucination or she was just crazy.
Yeah.
And we don't even know why she was crazy. You know.
Yeah.
Any of that stuff.
What's funny about Ginger Snaps Back was I was working at the video store when it came out on video. And I just saw the title and the list of the titles we were getting that week. And I was like, Ginger Snaps Back. What? She's resurrected? So I didn't find out until the next week when they sent us the DVD for the whole month to play at the video store. And I was like, oh, okay, she's not resurrected. It's just back in another time. So I ended up renting it and loving it. So I enjoyed it.
This is so much better than like trying to resurrect her and continue the first story. Because that would just be so stupid.
Somehow, like the little girl from the second one came and like found Ginger's body where it was buried or something, and she ended up like bringing her back to life with all of her magical stuff that she was into. And I put way too much thought into it.
I think if I read correctly, in the first movie, they weren't planning to have sequels. They weren't thinking that they'd actually have sequels or anything. So, like, when they killed Ginger off, like, they just thought that was it. You know, this movie would be one and done. Then it became such a big, big thing that they were like, we need to make 2 more of them. And I'm like thinking, okay, what you could do is you could always bring, you know, characters back through magic. You know, you can resurrect anything. You don't even need an explanation. Just something that somebody does a spell. She comes back to life. She's now a werewolf and whatever. And then you can continue the story. Now they're just like, yeah, we kind of dug ourselves a hole. So we're going to make her like a ghost hallucination thing. We're going to make Emily, you know, we're going to make Bridget crazy. We're going to, you know, put her in a insane asylum. She's going to escape. She's gonna girl interrupt everything, then she's gonna escape, then she's gonna, you know, do every, you know what I mean? And then they're like, well, what can we do for the third one? Nah, fucking put them Puritan times. Nobody will care, you know. Nobody did.
You know, here's the problem with that though. Like, because if you're just gonna bring people back with magic immediately, you take the rug out from under your whole plot and you take the consequences away from your own film. Because then you're just implying that it doesn't matter if someone dies again in this movie because we'll just bring them back with magic. Like then it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like if she stays dead in the second one, there's now stakes for Bridget. Like if Bridget dies, she stays dead. Like if you just bring Ginger back, I don't know. It just kind of neuters your own film because then it doesn't matter. And this is you brought up Supernatural. This is my problem with Supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first 5 seasons of Supernatural, great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Everything past season 5, you bring everyone dies, they come back too many times. I feel nothing anymore. Like nobody, if someone dies, I don't give a shit because I assume they are coming back within 2 episodes.
Right. Like nobody is dead in that, you know, and
everybody comes back. Everybody in that show. And it's just like, can we just have some stakes in this show anymore? Like, I don't feel like they're there. There's a safety net under everything.
Well, even Bobby came back, and I was
exactly that's the big one. Like, how did you? That was such an emotional moment when you kill Bobby, and even like 5 years later, like, let's undo that.
Yeah, let's bring it back. We missed him. You know,
the fans love him.
He was named after the director. Let's just bring him back. You know, like whatever. It was weird.
It was weird.
But you know what? You're right. The first 5 seasons of Supernatural are amazing and great. And guess what? Eric Kripke, the guy who created it, that's what he wanted. He only wanted 5 seasons. That's why he left the series after the 5th season. Was he was like, I'm done. I gave you guys 5 really good seasons. Now
he gave you an amazing arc, like an
Yeah.
arc that made sense for a story about 2 brothers when it's linked to like heaven and hell.
I will
Like-
say I was kind of bummed out by the ending of season 5 because I wanted a little bit more of like an epic ending, you know.
Mhm.
But then they screwed me over with the final season arc, which I like the ending to that, and I was just like, okay, you know, like I wish kind of was hoping for part 5 again, you know, like I'd rather have that, you know.
It
than
made
what I-
sense at least. And
Yeah,
it
it
was
made
it
sense.
felt like it hurt like when it happened the first time, and you're like, oh man. And then
Yeah.
like episode 1 the next season, oh no, it's okay.
Oh, yeah, he's back.
They're back.
They're
He's
back. They're back together. You know, they can't.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
and that's like what Ginger Snaps to me has weight about that. Like the first movie has a lot of weight. Like their relationship is super real. I feel like the approach they take is super real. It's an amazing twist on the werewolf genre. Just as far as like how they applied it to just like the same way that Stephen King applies like with Carrie.
right.
You know, Carrie goes through puberty and like unlocks her own psychic capabilities, which are massively dangerous. And that's like the same story that basically Ginger Snaps is telling, but with werewolves, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
like and a woman's sexual identity and her own autonomy and all these things. And I don't know. I think this was a cool pairing to that. And I feel like this movie, I don't know, there's just a kind of a special little kind of pairing of movies. Like werewolf movies are hard to get right, and a lot of them suck.
Yeah.
You know?
They are. And I'm a huge fan of werewolves. Like werewolves are my favorite
too.
subgenre.
Me
And
too.
so the one thing I really hated the most about this movie was the relationship between the sisters was completely different than the first 2 movies. Now I understand I guess they're different, Bridget and Ginger, but they are way more like caring for each other. The greatest thing about the original Ginger Snaps was how much they kind of fought, and how much, even though they loved each
Yeah.
other, they fought each other so hard, you know, and everything. I love that. Like I thought that was very cute, very real, like you said earlier, you know, like that felt good. And then this one just felt like, okay, so now together forever all the time. Like, I mean, what? Like I don't care. You know, like
I don't know. I
there's-
feel like you're looking at like two human beings relationships in 2 very different times in history. Like if you're looking at like kids in the 90s, and like this was like these were characters that a lot of 90s kids identified with, because like at this point you had been fed so much fake bullshit like in your short little lives at this point, that like you could understand kids like this who were like, you know what, suicide has been glorified, like this is like a way to like fucking make a mark for ourselves. Like these are very damaged characters
Mhm.
already as soon as we meet them. Like if we flash back to fucking Puritan times, you cut all of this bullshit out. Like this is not the same kind of relationship. These people are about survival. These people are about like not dying in the wilderness. Like these like more superficial things aren't plaguing these characters' minds. So I feel like
Yeah.
we're finding 2 characters that are dealing with entirely different worlds and entirely different like struggles internally. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think you can really relate the 2 as closely.
Maybe not. I mean, you might have a point there. What do you think, Anna?
Well, I think back in the day, they cared about each other more because they only had each other. They couldn't trust as Puritans. So, and
Because they were bullshit from the
later on
beginning.
in life, they like had their mother who loved them, but was crazy in a way. And they had society around them that was way different from the Puritan times. Because, I mean, there's no telling how long they had been walking before they found the little place, the cottage area.
Yeah. They were like half dead, freezing when we find them.
Yeah, they're probably like, okay, well, there's people. At least we're not alone, but we have each other still. Where
Right.
in the other, they're like, go screw yourself. I'll go find some other people to talk to.
Right.
Right, because
Like-
they're teens dealing with high school and boys and like
Yeah.
a much different society, and like all these other expectations that are on them that don't exist like
Yeah.
in this other film, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I'll take back what I said. You're right. You're absolutely right. Because I'll admit when I'm wrong. I'm an adult, but I was wrong because like these characters are completely different,
Yeah.
But that's a problem to me because like you can't call it that anymore. Like it's not this. It can't be the same story if you're just gonna just change these people and still call them Ginger and Bridget,
Yeah.
or whatever. Like
But
it just doesn't feel that way.
what's really fundamentally changing isn't really that drastic, I don't think. Like, okay, this is from my perspective as a man, and not I'm not a female, so I can't like come at it from like a proper perspective. But like looking at both those movies, like these are films about how women are viewed by society and the expectations that are put on them. Like the first film deals with like what it means to be called a slut and what it feels to have sexual identity and sexual freedom, right? And the third film is dealing with the same thing but in puritanical society, when we have like this religious oppressive society that's telling you what is moral, what is not, and all of these things, and immediately they're viewed on as like objects of the flesh, and all these like fucking sermons come up about the flesh immediately as soon as they're in the room. And it's just like, I think like we are dealing with the same kind of concepts with both films, but just from very different perspectives. That's why I think the two films work really well together. It's because they're then like shit isn't all that different. Like you fast forward hundreds of years and people are still like just looking at a pretty girl and objectifying them into the simplest forms that they possibly can. And when they break out of that, all hell breaks loose and people die.
I was surprised that they didn't go like a really creepy route, that they could have gone. Because because they were the only girls like surrounded by a bunch of dudes,
and they implied it. They implied that they were gonna go there, but they didn't really go as deep as you're saying.
Right, because they could have gone where they're like, well, we're gonna need to like basically make more children for this thing. Let's use these girls as ways to like continue our bloodline and all this crap. I mean, I guess they had the wendigo thing that they were all worried about. They were really thinking about that, but like I was like
this is an hour and a half movie, we got to pick like one plot line. Stick with it.
That's true. But there was like they were in the world, they were in this like kind of they basically were in this like place where they're by them, all by themselves, right? And everything, where occasionally they would go out and the hunter would go out and gather food and everything for everybody. I guess that was the main thing. So then he would come back in. And that was, to me, that was interesting. The other thing, so was it a dog that he called off or was it a wolf?
Seems like he had a pet wolf.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yeah.
I don't think he was an infected wolf, though.
No, it seemed like a normal wolf.
Yeah.
They kept calling him a dog, and I was like, that's a big dog.
There are people with wolf breeds now that just call them dogs.
Yeah.
I want one.
You want a dog? You want a wolf dog?
I do.
I would love a wolf dog. Sounds awesome. Yeah, hell yeah.
I want a watermelon monster.
Oh my gosh.
I'd have to show you that. They're just crazy. They're not real. But I wish they were.
One day.
I don't know. Yeah, science.
Yeah, science. What have we done?
Let's create the watermelon monster. But yeah,
we never stopped to ask if we should.
That was your greatest Jeff Goldblum impression, right? But yeah, so anyway, I guess it's about that time. We've been talking for this movie for almost an hour, so it's about that time to rate it and everything and talk about that. So as I said before earlier, we do the stinkometer rating system. Unless, is there anything that you guys needed to, like, you guys did not get to share that you guys wanted to make sure got said about this movie?
I want to say something about the leeches.
Oh yeah.
Stuck the leech on his chest and it just whoosh.
Right.
And then they shot him in the head. I was like, oh my God, that's like ridiculous. I do not want leeches touching me just in case I'm infected. So
Yeah, it was a werewolf leech.
It was crazy how the thing grew instantly. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't expect that. That's pretty nasty.
Yeah,
Right.
that was awesome. I was like, that was a great little practical effect moment. That was like also like for a movie that takes itself pretty seriously most of the time, it was kind of nice to have that weird like moment of just like splatter, like, whoa, like we're just gonna get like silly and horror movie for a moment on you and just throw you a big fat leech.
A big fat leech.
Yeah, it was good. I appreciated that moment. Good call on that.
Attack of the Giant Leeches. So Jordan, did you have anything else you wanted to make sure we mentioned?
Honestly, I think we pretty much covered it. And one thing I did uncover while I was like researching this movie a little bit is the director Grant Harvey was he was involved with the original film too. He was he was the director of the second unit. So when they were probably shooting pickup shots or establishing shots or some other stuff, that he was probably directing those units. So it's kind of cool that they got like a legacy guy who had been involved since the first film to come and direct this movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they did for like the second one too, is they found people who have been connected to the thing. Because I think that's the best way to do it. If you're going to create a franchise, you should keep it in the family, basically.
It felt very much like, that's why I like that movie. Is this felt like it, to me anyway, it felt like a very in line with the first film spiritually. I like that I got to see people back and people involved with the first film. It felt like we were just seeing, I don't know, it was a very fresh kind of cool thing. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So and I totally agree with you. And you know what? I agree with one thing that you said earlier, was basically that since you hadn't seen the second one or whatever, you probably enjoyed the third a lot more because it felt like a sort of a retelling of the original story and its own thing. And so I'm thinking that like, if you want to do like a movie night, don't watch all three back to back, but like you watch 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. Don't watch 2 and 3 at all.
I'm probably going to watch part 2 after this is over, to be honest with you. I was like, I had so much fun with part 3 today. I think I'm just going to watch 2 later tonight.
Nice.
There are parts you're going to be like, what is going on? So heads up.
You'll be like, when did this turn into Girl Interrupted? I don't know.
Oh my God, yes.
But all right. So we're back to the rating, and it's a stinkometer rating. So it's 1 to 10, 1 being very, very good, and 10 being very bad, stinky, you know.
It's the reverse. It's the reverse.
It's the reverse of like a normal 1 to 10. And one of my friends described it as, if you kind of plugged your nose and and somebody asked you how bad is that stink, you would say, oh, it's on a level of 1 to 10. You'd say, oh, it's a lot of stink, or whatever. And so it's a 10, but and then you can do a 0.5 if you feel like you need to do that or whatever. So
you need to get scientific.
Yeah, if you need to get scientific, you're not quite sure which one to go with. Anno, let's start with you. What is your rating on it?
I give it a 3. I enjoyed it because of the time period that it was placed in. I like movies back in that day. For some reason, I have no clue. I guess I lived in one life at that point and thought, hey, memories. But I also liked when Ginger started changing. Like, you saw subtle highlights in her hair and the fangs started coming out shortly. And then when she walks out and like lets the wolves in, I was like, that is beautifully done.
Awesome. I'm I loved I loved it. So I agree. Three's a good number for this. What do you say, Jordan?
I was actually thinking the same thing. I was thinking 3.
Nice.
I think this movie's really good. And I think when the werewolves actually make an appearance, they're so well done. Like, we didn't even talk about that. But like the mix of, like, I'm a huge practical effect guy. I really enjoy practical effects. Somebody said this recently on our podcast. We just talked to the guys who made Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and they put it the way that it's like the best way I've ever heard it put, which is like, as no matter how real CGI gets, it's always fake, and no matter how fake practical effects look, they're always real.
Oh, that's true.
And like the werewolves are amazing in this movie. Like when they show up, it's this amazing, like it feels like Dark Crystal or some shit, where like we have people in puppets with like rigged heads and like extended arms, and it's really fantastic. And I think the final act just pays off. I thought it was a great movie.
What did so what are they're the brothers that are, how do you say their last name?
The Kyotos brothers.
Kyotos. Okay.
Yeah, there's three of them. They like together they wrote, produced, and directed and did the effects for Killer Clowns.
That's
awesome. They also did like they're the puppet coordinators behind like Team America, World Police.
Oh, nice.
Which they say was the most impossible job you could possibly concoct. They have some really funny stories about that one. But they did they did the Critters actually. They designed and made the Critter from Critters and a bunch of other stuff.
That's amazing.
They're really crazy talented guys. Like it's nuts.
So I was gonna give it a higher rating before than I'm going to.
We talked you down?
You guys talked me down to lower. Originally, actually, my first thought was 7, and that is way too high. That is way too high.
That's brutal.
You
made me watch this Australian Bigfoot movie, and you're going to give this thing a potential.
Well,
7.
that would be that one's higher for sure.
So that one was a 50.
Yeah, and that one's not that high, but it's not even think a 10, but that's that's probably 8 or 9 territory.
Oh, wow.
This one, I would definitely probably go with 4.
Cool.
I don't like. I don't think I loved it nearly as much as you guys did. I don't think I'm glad I didn't tell you guys I hated it or anything, because I didn't really hate it. It was just not, to me, it did not feel in line to like 1, 2, and 3. Like it did not feel like the third. So now that I think what talked me down was giving it that thought that maybe, just maybe, if you thought it was like 1 and 3 and kind of combine those or whatever, you could get away with this. But like I said, don't go 1, 2, and 3 and expect this to be whatever. It's going to be a very confusing timeline. They need to do a 4th one and just continue with what they did with 3. Because what this feels like? This feels like the Halloween 3, of this franchise.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. You could actually, that would be super interesting if you got the same actresses back, did them like pretend Ginger didn't die, whatever, another universe, maybe, who cares? Like you said earlier, and just deal with like how adult women or like women who are above 30 or whatever are viewed in like the media, and take the same approach, like just do Scream, right? Like take where society's evolved to and like make a comment on that, because I feel like that's what Ginger Snaps is really like. That's what makes it kind of special as well as a werewolf movie. It's not just, it's like the werewolf is like secondary, I feel like, to the statement it's making about its characters and where they are in society and stuff like that. And I feel like that's what makes Ginger Snap special, and I feel like that's something that could be adapted infinitely, right? As long as you bring those two back, because it's like that's like the thing. It's got to be those two. Yeah,
and I'm sure they would do it. Like they have no. I mean, it seems like that was the movie that kind of put them on the map,
And to me, like watching this one, like I already kind of saw both of them a little bit as like important women in the genre. But like watching this, I was like, oh man, they're so much more iconic than I even really felt like I appreciated them for.
Right.
Like obviously she was Beverly Marsh to me, but she's got her like fame with Supernatural. But like these 3 movies, I think are really special. And like Catherine Isabel is like appeared in Hannibal, right? She was a reoccurring role in that show, which was really cool.
She was American Mary, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. The Soska sisters film. Yep.
And she's been in a lot of good stuff.
Canadian
I
also, like a Canadian hero a little bit like this. That's another thing. I like Canadian films that are unapologetically Canadian.
One of my favorite movies of all time is a movie called Disturbing Behavior.
Yeah.
And she was like the little sister in it who, caused little problems or whatever. And I always adored Catherine Isabel. Like I think she's just
great.
Yeah, she's great in everything she does.
Jason.
Shit. That's right.
Yeah. With
her
Brendan
boyfriend
Fletcher.
gets folded in half.
Yeah. Which I'm like, okay, not getting that bad.
Yeah, he deserved to be folded in half.
Yeah, he was a jerk.
She had one of the best lines in the movie where she was talking about, I think was Monica Keena in that too, from freaking Dawson's Creek, the girl from that or whatever. But she has this like great line where she said something like, I'll, something about smoke. I only smoke when I drink. And she was like, but you're always drinking. And she was like, I'll work on that next.
Yeah. No, she's great. I love her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's always got that smart ass attitude. And I've always adored her. I want to see her more, definitely more stuff, period.
She has a no nudity clause with her acting too. So when we see her from the back getting up nude, that is a body double. That is not her.
Wow, wish I could do that.
Yeah, which I'm also makes me wonder in Freddy versus Jason, when like the camera pans in the door and we see the sex scene with her and douchebag boyfriend, probably also a body double. Yep. I bet you it's not her.
Which is kind of sad to know that, but it's it is what it is. Like it's just sort of like it feels fake. Like whatever. Why not even not shoot something? You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna have somebody who has no nudity clause, don't shoot any nudity. Like just get somebody else to do nudity. Everybody else.
Well, that's what she does. I mean, she's like,
well, she gets somebody to pretend to be her.
I mean,
well,
she's like, how much acting do you need my ass to do? Like, if the shot is literally just about seeing my butt, like, just get somebody else, man. Like, I don't need to be there. Like, I get that, dude. Like, I say, power to that. Like, if you're like, man, if you're literally just need me to like be riding this dude and like you just need some boobs to be bouncing and you don't need to see my face, then it does not need to be me.
Okay, so you were mentioning was it Team America earlier, but have you ever seen a movie called Orgasmo? South Park guys. They have what is it? Stunt cock, that would come in. And,
totally.
Yeah. So it'd be like stunt, boobies. And so one person comes in and just pretends to, stunt tits. All right,
yeah. I feel like that should happen so often, like just butt doubles, whatever.
Yeah.
Like probably even more than we think. Like actors are probably like, yeah, this dude has better back muscles than me. Back double, get him in here, whatever. Yeah. Like,
well,
I bet you that shit constant.
I believe one of like my former roommate was a hand, it was a hand double for people, or whatever in Scary Movie 5 or
funny,
whatever it is, the one with fucking what's her name, Ashley Tisdale. So she was like, she would just put her hands up and do that and whatnot. And I just think that's really funny. Like when we see a hand or whatever, like that just gripped something or whatever, that's not the actor's hand, because I guess the actor is too busy sitting in their trailer, they're like,
it's not even that. Like think about it like this way though. Like to do that shot, that takes time. You have to light that shot. You have to shoot everything. You have to do multiple takes. Costs money to have an actor on set. Like if you're going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to have a name actor on set, why are you going to waste time doing close-ups of hands of this person? Like you could easily pay way less money, get somebody with nice hands who can double for that person, get in there and not waste that person's time that costs you $100,000. Like that's like a wake up and smell the budget type thing, man. Like honestly, like if you don't need to see their face, like you can save a lot of money by not doing it, and like
or not getting them to do it. But then you have to pay that extra person. You're already,
but that's a stunt person or that's a body double person. That's infinitely less money. Like if you have Brad Pitt on set and it's cost you $100,000 a day or whatever he fucking costs, I have no idea. But and you just need a close up of his hands pressing the code on the fucking door or whatever it is, and like and you could just be like, dude, whatever, man, like this guy's got nice hands. He costs base union rate, which is like $100 a day or $150, whatever it is. Like just pay that instead of $100,000 and we just do the hand.
All right,
steam.
You're right.
That's like a budget thing, man. Like seriously, money gets like wasted like crazy in Hollywood movies, bro. And like if you can save some money by doing a close up with Joe instead of Brad Pitt, then great.
Yeah. All right. And plus, like you said, might be a stunt person. So they're already going to be on set anyway. And they're probably going to be eating up money that's not being used at that time to just sit around and everything. Why not pull that person or an extra or somebody else and say, hey, do you want to get a photo double credit? You know, all you gotta do is put your hands out there, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, they do that. And then
a lot of times they'll plan that for a whole separate day.
Then you be careful. You know, you get people going, that's not their hands. I know this, and they'll write it. This movie sucked. They didn't even have the person with the right hands.
He's got a scar over his left thumb. I know it because I'm a stalker, and I gave them that scar in '95.
Exactly. So there you go. You might have those people that are on the internet.
But a lot of times those movies will plan shots like that on their own day. Like they're just like, listen, we're gonna get all the close up hand doodles like on a whole separate day because it's just cheaper.
Usually they're so quick that nobody even really
exactly.
So
they're insert shots. They're quick. Yeah,
they're just there to make sure that, because if you've all been on film sets before, I'm sure, or whatever, but when you move you have to shoot coverage, you have to shoot different shots that might not make it, but most of the time they do, for editing purposes, because you can't just have somebody talking and then go to the next person talking. You might have to have that person talking, then go to the hand, then go to the next person talking. Otherwise it looks weird.
Cut to the bomb ticking down for 5 seconds.
For 5 seconds, then you cut to the person going, "Oh my God!"
There's only 5 seconds left.
Yeah. So there's only 5. We just wasted 10 seconds.
Why are we still explaining this? Cut to the bomb. 1 second.
All right. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much, guys. This has been great.
Yeah.
So, first of all, Jordan, you have podcasts and stuff. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I co-host the show Camp Nightmare, and we actually just started our 4th season with episode 118. And we are, we're doing a whole Women in Horror month all March, and we have a different guest every single week this month of a different creator in the independent media.
Well, this will be out in October, so it would have already been out. So
time is like a flat circle or like whatever it is. So whatever, man. Like time is
go back and listen to the March ones.
By this point, I'm in episode fucking 5,000. Who knows, like what I'm at. But like, yeah, we do weekly shows. We do all kinds of movie breakdowns. We do original stories that both my co-host and I write, and sometimes some people we bring in write some stories. We also do celebrity interviews. We do true crime with our good friend Kelly from Austin all the time. We do a lot of different stuff. So campnightmare.com, we can find that. We're also
on a network basically of podcasts.
Well, yeah, we're kind of starting our own network. We're calling it the Nerd Camp Network, and we have ourselves as the flagship show. We also do a side show all about the show The Simpsons called Camp Krusty, and that's our second show. And then we also sort of have other couple shows under our umbrella. Clearing the Queue is our good friend Mike Laws in LA, does a show where he goes and clears the queue of movies he's been talking about. He does like 1 movie per episode. With his good friend Zach, and they're really cool. And we're trying to expand a little bit, but it's basically started with just Camp Nightmare and the success we found there and the community we've built there with our Patreon and just people we've really met through the whole thing, and just expanded it through there.
Awesome. How can people reach you?
You can go to campnightmare.com, and there's like the whole way you can email us through there. Our social media is a great way to get a hold of us. We're always on Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff. And you can find the show there or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or pretty much any of the major podcast apps. I can't begin to name what they all are.
That's the beauty. Once you have like a company like Podbean was what we use, and stuff, and that's just a good way to just everybody. They just put it to everything. I think I've had to add a couple ones that they didn't add, but like that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff.
All right, so Anna. We've got the show, and hopefully by the time that this has come out, that we would have already done, brought back Frights the Roundtable, which we co-host together, which is a lot of fun. And last season we had you on Indie Film Cafe, and as I told Jordan, I want him to come on some point on Indie Film Cafe and then listen to us talk about really bad movies again. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're really good ones too. But most of the time we try, or even iffy, like kind of. I think the one we had you, Anna, for was that the Was that the Leonardo DiCaprio one that we did?
Yeah, the Don's Plum.
Don's Plum. Have you ever heard of that, Jordan?
No.
It's messed up.
It is on YouTube for free because they can't sell it at all because they got sued by Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire's lawyers, have both stopped it. Yeah.
Sold.
Kevin Connolly is in it. It's just got
I am in.
What it was, the Pussy Posse, I guess was what they were called back then. I'm just saying it, like I'm not, whatever, but
this sounds wacky and I'm in.
It's terrible. It's not a
sounds terrible.
Yeah. It's in black and white and it's very
artsy.
Well, it wanna be artsy, but it's like
actually it was a weird black and white because it was so bright. You're like, is my TV messed up?
Hurts to look at it. What's going on?
I'm getting like I saw a lot of movies. Like I just reviewed a movie that for my 52-week movie challenge because I don't have enough stuff I'm already doing. I had to like add another challenge. Well, somebody gave it to me for Christmas, and I'm just like,
would I not accept this challenge? Would I not accept it?
Yeah, I gotta do it. So I reviewed a movie called Scotch and Milk that I've been dying to watch, and because they give me like it was the thing was the week was for independent film, and I'm like, oh god, you're gonna give me independent film? Like I know, like there's a million movies I could pick, and I was like, well, I'm probably not gonna do this one for Indie Film Cafe because it's too long. It was 2 hours long, I generally try to keep it shorter than, like that because it's just like people get bored. I think Don's Plum was an hour and a half, or less. But I try to
title
get people
alone. It just doesn't sound promising.
Scotch
Don's
and Milk.
Plum.
Oh
no,
okay.
Don's Plum.
Don's Plum. Well, that was actually a place that existed. It was like a restaurant or something, or whatever, a place that everybody used to go to, and that's what it was based on. And a lot of it, it was. You would sound like Don's Plum isn't about somebody named Don's Plum. No, it's literally about
get away from my plum.
It's literally about
I'm
a bunch
Don.
of friends hanging out, chatting, and that's it. Like literally a bunch of friends chatting with each
like
other.
My Dinner with Andre, only he's like eating one sloppy plum for like 2 hours straight.
I wish there was a plum in the movie. Like literally now.
It's a metaphorical plum.
It's a yeah, apparently so. I don't know who. I think Don was the owner. I hope of the place. But anyway, yeah. So I've been watching these black and white shitty independent films. I'm like, not all of them can be Clerks. They try to be. And so in some way or another, or My Dinner with Andre, another fine example of a independent film with in black and white, so done anyway well. Done well. So thank you guys, and thank everybody for checking this out. Join me next week for a brand new episode with 2 new people who have never been on the show before, probably most likely together, and that's the beauty, is I'm bringing people together and doing this, and so that we could do the Stinkometer and have all our scores down there. But I'm glad this one got a low rating. It deserves it. Trust me, out of the stuff that I've watched on Tubi, this was nice.
It was good.
We recommend it totally. I do. I don't know.
There was definitely care put into this movie. Like you could tell they loved what they were doing.
Once again, I watched Ginger Snaps 1 and 3 back to back, or 1 and 2 back to back. Not 2 and 3.
Not all 3, or no, definitely not 2 and 3. That makes no sense.
That would confuse the fun.
It's bad. Bad.
Though 3 and 2 might be interesting, because then you'll be like, wait, what just happened?
What is reality? Yeah, wow.
Because it kind of ends with them holding hands or whatever, saying they're going to be together forever and everything. So I mean, I guess they were.
Thematic, that is.
I guess they were there forever and together forever. All right. Well, thank you guys, and once again, everybody, have a good one, and join us next week. if you guys stick around, I'll chat with you a bit after. And everybody else, have a good one. Bye.